What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MLB First Look podcast, presented as always by RunPureSports.com. I'm your host, as usual, DraftCheat, flying solo today on Friday morning. Happy weekend, by the way. Talking Friday's 14-game baseball slate. Certainly a good one tonight as we get, kind of in the dog days. I wouldn't say the home stretch yet for baseball, but certainly – if you're on Twitter, which I assume you are, if you're listening to this podcast, we see football dominating the timeline, not baseball anymore. Football season into high gear. Of course, we had the Hall of Fame game last night on Thursday. I didn't watch any of that myself. I'm not a huge preseason football guy, at least until maybe the last game when we see some starters out there. But I know many of you, I'm sure, were excited about that game. And, of course, excited for football season coming up. Still baseball mode for me for frankly throughout the whole season I'll be in baseball mode, but doesn't mean can't get excited about two sports at once. If you are a regular listener of this podcast, maybe you watch our free YouTube baseball shows every day. We've got a great deal going on right now over at RunPureSports.com with the coincides with the kickoff of the upcoming NFL season. You can use promo code RPS NFL 15. That's RPS NFL 15. That will get you 15% off not only your first monthly payment, but for life. 15% off for life with RPS NFL 15. That's as long as your subscription doesn't end at any time. So as long as you're on top of that, pay the bills, you'll get 15% off for life, which I think will be a worthy investment, especially because, we don't add on anything, right? We are a one-stop shop. We're constantly adding new analysts, new tools, new shows, all that stuff. Join us, RPS NFL 15, and join the crew, Run Peer, with us over at RunPureSports.com. All right, enough with the advertisements. Let's jump into this 15-game slate. It's a good, or 14 game slate rather, but it's a good one. A lot of pitching options, which frankly hasn't always been the case. We're seeing more and more pitchers kind of go down with injury. At this point, I'll kind of be surprised to see Jacob deGrom return at any point. Clayton Kershaw is going to be out until September. I have my doubts about him, how often we'll see him, and if he'll be effective when we see him. We've got the foreign substance crackdown. It's kind of, taking a bite out of the pitching, and we're going to continue to see that because we're going to see more and more pitchers shut down as teams are eliminated from playoff contention and players rack up innings after the truncated 2020 season. So just something to keep an eye on, or an eye on and consider as we go forward. But tonight, there are plenty of options. Just one pitcher above 10K on DraftKings, that is Corbin Burns. He's been terrific all year. Perhaps a Cy Young winner, potentially for the Milwaukee Brewers. We'll see if he can keep it going. He's fallen off a tiny bit, I would say, with the loss of some spin rate. But still an incredible pitcher. He's going to give you length most often. Only went 4 innings in his last start, a rough one at Atlanta. But, that's a tough place to pitch. He's back at home here. He does get a San Francisco team that is getting healthier. They recently got Brandon Crawford back. Now Brandon Belt back in the lineup the last couple of days. So this is a dangerous lineup, but still you've got to consider Corbin Burns to be one of the top options on the slate at 10K even. High strikeout guy, obviously, going to give you about 100 pitches most times out. And worthy of that 10K price tag. I do think I prefer the next guy on the list to him slightly. Perhaps not the same level of upside, but a much better matchup and a better place to pitch, and that's Chris Bassett for the Oakland A's, who's quietly put together a really strong season himself. Again, I don't think you're going to often get the 40-plus DraftKings games. Not that any pitcher does that very often at all, but Bassett, I think, is less likely to do that than perhaps some of the other quote-unquote aces. But, man, he feels very, very safe here. This Texas team obviously traded Joey Gallo. There's just not a lot there in this Texas team, especially pitching in Oakland with the huge amount of foul territory and just tough to go deep there. So even, the few Texas guys that do have power, going to be tough to hurt Bassett in that way. So I think he's pretty likely to go deep into this game. I mean, 3 of his last 4 starts, he's given us 7 innings. You're kind of hoping for 7, 8, maybe 9 strikeouts here, kind of as a ceiling. But hey, that'll get the job done at 9,800. And I think he's very unlikely to burn us. So he would be my number one option on the slate. Just expect him to pitch really well. The matchup couldn't be better, like we said. And yeah, Bassett, 9,800, I think a strong way to go. Over on FanDuel, he's same price over there, 9,800, but you do get an additional $1,000 discount from Corbin Burns, who is 11K over on FanDuel. So Bassett looks like a very strong play to me. Zach Greinke, next highest price pitcher. I'll probably pass on him at 9,600. Minnesota, I think, is a team that we do kind of want to target a little bit right now, but Greinke has not been super great recently, and I just don't see, to me, he's like kind of a poor man's version of Bassett at this point, where the strikeout upside just isn't really there for him. And I think this matchup with Minnesota, while a pretty good one, is much more risky than the one for Bassett. So I'll pass on Greinke at 9,600. Next guy on the list, though, another kind of Bassett, Greinke, Wainwright, kind of similar pitchers and to some extent. Diverse arsenal of pitches, don't throw super hard, but generally get the job done. And Wainwright, a bit of a tough season for the Cardinals, but he's been fantastic. And he's been especially fantastic when he's been at home. 19.1 DraftKings fantasy points per game at home compared to 13.7 on the road. Strikeout stuff, for whatever reason, much better at home. So he is at home here against Kansas City, whose offense has really been scuffling. They even lose their DH in this game. They obviously traded Jorge Soler. I do like Wainwright again quite a bit at 9,500. And he is a guy that, can potentially go very deep into games. I think he has a couple complete games, I believe. Yeah, 2 complete games already this year. Man, this could be one where he does it. He's been, last 4 starts, 7 innings, 6 innings. Again, probably not going to get double-digit strikeouts from him, but he can make that up with the duration of his outing. I do like Adam Wainwright quite a bit at 9,500. Other guys I'm looking at, Kyle Muller for the Braves, a big, tall lefty, throws pretty hard. I've compared him to the Marlins' Trevor Rogers in the past in terms of kind of their build and their profile. And he's been really good too, especially for a rookie sitting with an ERA under 2.5. Good strikeout stuff. The Braves are, not really holding him back too much. 87 pitches in his last start. They did let him go to 102 back on July 3rd. So they'll let him go, especially with that kind of a little bit shaky bullpen that Atlanta has. 9,200 feels like a lot for him, but this Washington team, it's a AAA lineup right now. It really is. And especially because I think they're likely to be without Juan Soto tonight, who seemed to tweak his knee late in Thursday's game. So we'll see if Soto's in there. But obviously, you take Soto out of there, they're already missing Trey Turner and just playing a lot of rookies. This should be kind of a cakewalk for Muller. The only real guy left in there would be Josh Bell, who doesn't swing well from the right side. I guess Ryan Zimmerman could play, but it's tough sledding for Washington right now. So I like Kyle Muller to go out there and throw a good game. I don't think he's as safe as the previous guys we've mentioned, Wainwright, Bassett, Burns, but I do think his upside is pretty much just as high as all those guys. Maybe not Corbin Burns, but I do like Kyle Muller quite a bit at 9,200. So don't be scared off at that price tag. I think maybe some people will be. So maybe we'll get a little bit lower ownership. And if you're playing over on FanDuel, Muller comes in at 7,700. So you don't necessarily need the discount over there, but you can certainly use it. There are plenty of big bats to pay for. Give Kyle Muller a look tonight, especially over on FanDuel. Other guys, I think it is mostly a kind of a pay up for pitching type of slate, but there are some other guys that I'm at least considering. One would be Ermond Marquez pitching in Colorado. He's actually had pretty much the exact same results, at least DraftKings wise, 18.6 fantasy points per game, whether he's been home or away. He gets this Miami team that, I'm not scared of, especially their first game in Colorado. They haven't been in Colorado yet this year, so it can take some teams, especially teams that don't go there often, a little bit of time to adjust to the altitude. And Marquez has shown he can get the job done, even pitching at home. So risky, but should be low owned at 8,400, and he's capable of it. He just is. It's been a tough schedule for him. Obviously, a lot of games against the Dodgers, the Padres, half your games at Coors Field. But Marquez, he's gotten the job done, and kind of even impressively 13 starts at home and just 9 on the road. So, I think he's fully capable of delivering a big outing here. So don't completely write off Ermond Marquez at 8,400. Going down a little bit further, I don't mind Kyle Gibson at 7,400. He's been a kind of a hero for us a little bit over at RPS this year. Faltered in his last couple starts for Texas, but was traded to Philly and looked really good in that first start against Pittsburgh. Now, of course, that is Pittsburgh, but this is the Mets, and I'm not afraid of this Mets team whatsoever. So I think Kyle Gibson's got a good chance to pitch well. He's 7,400, gives you a nice discount if you're after some top-end stacks or top-end bats. Don't mind that whatsoever. And then Logan Webb is going to be one of my favorite plays here. I'd prefer him to Kyle Gibson. If you look at the game log, well, first, he's not a big name pitching out in San Francisco. If you look at the game log, it doesn't look amazing, but look who he's faced. The last 3 starts, the Dodgers twice and the Houston Astros. And he's performed well in those games. They're starting to stretch him out, let him go a little bit further, up to 94 pitches. In that last outing, he went on the IL for a little bit, I believe. Yep, missed all of June. Came back July 9th through 45 pitches against the Nationals. Since then, it's been that 45 and then 60, 75, 80, 94. So Logan Webb, good to go. I watched that last start against Houston. He looks good, man. Nasty slider. This Milwaukee team, I know they've been doing a little bit of damage recently, but I look at this lineup and I see an opportunity here for Webb to pitch well. I also think we'll get him at relatively low ownership. Again, I just don't think he's a big name. People aren't really onto him. Look at the Brewers team total, 4.4 runs projected for them in this game. I'll take the under on that for one. And, there's just not that many great hitters in this lineup. That's just, you want to make a case for Eduardo Escobar and Avisail Garcia and Colton Wong, okay, but those aren't scary bats really to me. So I think Logan Webb at 7,200 on DraftKings is going to be under-owned here. He's pretty cheap on FanDuel as well, 7,600. I like his chances, even as an underdog with going up against a team with a relatively high team total. So give me some Logan Webb tonight as a little bit of a lower-owned option. I don't see a ton beyond that, to be honest. You could take a shot on Ryan Weathers pitching for the Padres. He's been stretched out a little bit, 81 pitches in his last outing. He gets this Arizona team that just doesn't really have many big league caliber hitters in it. We'll see if Ketel Marte plays. If he's out, would be an extra bump to Weathers. So 6,100, more of a price play, but frankly, I'll find the extra $1,000 to get up to Logan Webb or Kyle Gibson. So it's a brief rundown of pitching. I think a lot of strong options. I think you can pay up for both spots if you want to. But I think most of my teams, I'll probably go down to a Kyle Gibson or Logan Webb, and I do prefer Logan Webb between those two just a little bit. So as of now, unless something changes, I could see quite a bit of Logan Webb on my own teams. Let's go position by position then, just pointing out a few guys. I won't name all the options. We'll do that, of course, on the free YouTube show. I believe that's at 5 Eastern time. And then I think that's right. Yeah, 5 Eastern time. And then the Up to Lock show, I'll be on that one, I believe, tonight. So check that out if you want to. Catcher, Eric Haas for Detroit, just continues to get it done. A matchup with Cal Quantrill of the Indians is a good one. It's getting expensive, 4,700, the third or fourth highest catcher on the board, depending on who plays tonight. Deservingly so, though. I do prefer him against lefties. Obviously, Quantrill does throw from the right side, but still, Haas, you kind of tell what Detroit thinks of him because he DHs or plays outfield when he's not behind the plate, and he's just getting it done. This isn't the strongest position today. Mike Zuninu, I think, is a good play. John Means, he was so good at the beginning of the season. He missed some time with injury and hasn't been super great since he's come back. I think the spin rate crackdown kind of hurt him a little bit. This game in Baltimore where the ball flies, and Zuninu, what's he up to, 21 home runs on the year? I mean, he's still hitting under 200, but hey, you're usually rostering a catcher to try to catch that lightning in a bottle with the home run. So I do like Mike Zunino quite a bit. If he's in the lineup, Mitch Garver, I think you can go back to him, showing good power this year since coming back from injury. Again, I do much prefer him against lefties, but Zach Greinke, his opposing pitcher, gets hit pretty hard by right-handed bats. Greinke, reverse splits guy, doesn't throw hard. I think Garver's got a decent chance here, and he'll be really low owned. People don't really roster pitchers or hitters rather against Greinke. So you'll get Garver at the low ownership, 3,700, more than a fair price tag for him. And then Max Stassi, always interested in him. If you're a regular listener of the show, you probably realize that by now. He's pretty cheap here, coming in at 3,100 against David Price, who, it's not the same David Price that we're used to over the years. Stassi certainly can win that matchup. Not great out of, when he's got to face the Dodgers' great bullpen, but at 3,100, one swing of the bat would get the job done. So that's catcher. Maybe there'll be some more guys that emerge looking for cheaper guys. I don't see a lot. Maybe Tom Murphy for Seattle if he's in there against Wandy Peralta for the New York Yankees, and then Carson Kelly, who recently returned from injury. Hasn't done a lot yet, but at least historically has really hit lefties well and gets Ryan Weathers, a guy that we don't really need to be super scared of. So that's catcher. Let's go over to first base. For me, this is a spend-up position basically all the way. There are three just amazing options at the top. That's Joey Votto. Nobody's hotter than him. Another home run yesterday. Just missed another. I don't think he's slowing down anytime soon. He gets JT Brubaker of the Pirates, who I think is kind of a promising young pitcher, but faltering down the stretch. Seems like he's running out of gas a little bit to me. So I think the Reds are going to do some damage against Brubaker tonight. Freddie Freeman, another guy who's been just performing super well. Last year, obviously won the MVP. He was struggling a little bit at the beginning of the year. I was kind of saying, listen, it's going to come for Freddie Freeman. He's going to end up having an MVP caliber season, and sure enough, he's one of the MVP frontrunners now with Tatis on the shelf, with DeGrom on the shelf. I think Freeman has like the third or fourth highest best odds to win the MVP, plus 800 or something. I kind of like that as Atlanta continues their surge. Finally got over 500 yesterday. Freddie Freeman, 5,800. Expensive, but I do expect him to do quite a bit of damage. And then I think my favorite play here is actually Matt Olson against Mike Fultonevich, who just gives up so many home runs. I think he's given up the most home runs this year of any pitcher in baseball. If not, he's right up there off the top of my head. And Olson just crushing it this year. I'm not afraid of that park in Oakland. You'll get him, I think, a little bit lower owned, as we typically see with West Coast players, because you don't get the lineup, and I don't know if people are impatient. I don't know what it is exactly that drives that, but certainly it is a true phenomenon in MLB DFS, where those West Coast players, for the most part, go lower owned. So Votto, Freeman, Olson, I'm going to find the salary to pay up for one of those guys. That's one of the reasons you can spend down a pitcher with a guy like Gibson or Logan Webb. Let's go over to second base. I think quite a few options here. Mookie Betts, weird to see him second base eligible, but he's been on fire since returning from injury. This Dodgers team, too, is about to take off. Obviously acquired Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. Scherzer was awesome in his first start. Trey Turner, I think, will either make his debut tonight or on Saturday. He was on the COVID list. I think he actually tested positive for COVID. So hopefully he's fine. I would assume so. And, if he's in there, I mean, that Dodgers lineup is just so nasty right now, and Betts picking it up. He's a good option. The opposing pitcher, Patrick Sandoval, is an interesting one. If Sandoval had a better matchup, if it wasn't the Dodgers, would have certainly mentioned him in the pitching portion of this show. But still, advantage Betts and the Dodgers against Patrick Sandoval. Ozzy Albies, a favorite of mine. Really disappointing series for him against St. Louis, against the three bad lefties. But I mean, he was hitting line drives all over the yard. They're just kind of going at people. Didn't quite elevate enough for home runs. He'll be back to it. Eric Fetty, another great matchup for Albies. I do expect the Braves to have a pretty big series against the Nationals here back at home, where, I don't know, the Braves just so much better at home. Maybe I shouldn't have been as high as I was on them in St. Louis, but back at home, give me some Braves. DJ LeMahieu, I think, is a fine play at 5,200, just maybe lacking a little bit of upside. Did talk about the Reds. Jonathan India, this guy is on fire too. I mean, this whole team, India, Votto, you're seeing Winker pick it up a little bit. They got Castellanos back, so I'm going to be on the Reds quite a bit at home here against Brubaker. I talked about Matt Olson at first base, and I'll talk about Judd Lowry here, his teammate. I believe he had a home run yesterday or 2 days ago. 2 days ago. They didn't play yesterday. But, he's been swinging it pretty good, and I just love lefties against Fulte. I mean, I'll take anybody, but especially the lefties. Lowry has had a pretty solid season for the A's, kind of under the radar. Abraham Toro, I'm bringing up him quite a bit, and I'll continue to do that as long as he keeps hitting and that price stays low. Switch hitter for the Mariners, acquired from the Astros at the trade deadline, and I like what I've seen from him. Gets Peralta for the Yankees, who isn't any good. I think Toro can hit from the left or right side pretty well, and 3,300, nice discount. Last guy I'll mention is Tommy Edmond, who will likely be leading off tonight against Mike Minor. I like Edmond a little bit better from the right side of the plate. And 3,100, pretty good discount for a leadoff hitter if you want to go that direction. Let's jump over to third base. Jose Ramirez, I would assume he'll be back in the lineup. Wasn't in there on Thursday. Gets Matt Manning, who has looked a little bit better, but I still think this is a matchup to target with a guy like Jose Ramirez. So he, I think, will be my top option there. Not far behind him would be Manny Machado. Again, another player, a little bit like Freddie Freeman, who got kind of a slow start to the year, but he's been crushing it recently. Kind of the big bad in that San Diego lineup now that Tatis is out, and gets Caleb Smith, who can have decent strikeout stuff at times, but also gets just crushed by right-handed power. Throws a lot of high fastballs, and we know Manny Machado, that fast bat. I could see him launching one into the San Diego sky tonight. Beyond Machado, Justin Turner, again, righties against Sandoval. I kind of like them a little bit, even though I do have a lot of respect for Sandoval as a pitcher. If we want to go out to Coors Field, so I think this is the first batter we've mentioned at Coors tonight. I'm not super into it with Marquez and Alcantara on the hill for Miami, but Ryan McMahon, 4,100, he's been much better at home. Talked about Abraham Toro already. Can play him at second or third base. I think he's a strong option. Heimer Candelario for Detroit, 3,500. Get a nice discount there. And then if you really want to go cheap, I'll throw in Asdrubal Cabrera, who's been pretty good recently since coming back from injury, a hamstring injury. Gets Ryan Weathers and San Diego Pen, 2,600. Can play him at either corner spot, first base, or third. Again, not the most exciting play in the world, no doubt about that, but cheap enough if you're paying up for pitching or trying to get a Yankee stack, something like that. I think Cabrera should be hitting, second, third, fourth, something like that in the Arizona lineup. Decent enough option if you need the savings. Shortstop is rough tonight. We'll see if Trey Turner gets in there. I'm not sure if he will. We'll see. If he's in there, he would be the top option for me against Sandoval. If not, I'm kind of looking at his teammate, Chris Taylor, 5,400. Again, little bit, expensive, and the matchup's not perfect, but this position is tough. Maybe there'll be some guys that emerge over the course of the day, but right now I don't see a ton. If we get a cheap shortstop that seems decent, I wouldn't even mind going to that. I can kind of say that right off the bat because I don't love the high end or mid-range shortstops. Chris Taylor is fine, but it's not like it's a premier match or anything like that. Wander Franco, again, he's been picking it up a little bit recently. I do like him from the right side against John Means in Baltimore. Like, you'll be hitting at the top of that lineup, I'm pretty sure. So that's fine, but $5K for a guy that, hasn't produced that much yet as a rookie. That's a lot to pay. And then I'll throw in Dansby Swanson. I do like the Braves once again. Surprise, surprise. But again, Swanson, I do prefer him against lefties and gets a righty in Eric Fetty. It's just Fetty is not good. So I'm kind of willing to pay that price for Swanson, but kind of hoping we get a tasty, cheap guy that emerges at some point today because, again, I'm not super excited to pay for really any of those guys at the high end and mid-range of shortstop. All right, let's finish it off with the outfield. As always, outfield is just going to be absolutely loaded. Talked about Mookie Betts already. I'll throw in Jesse Winker. Hasn't been quite as good as he was at the beginning of the season, but back at home here. And I just like this offense in general. If you're stacking the Reds, I would certainly want to include Jesse Winker. Nelson Cruz, against John Means, Nelson Cruz against the lefty in a hitter's park, hard to go wrong there. So he's going to be certainly a top option for me. Both the Yankees power righties, Judge, Stanton, and not a righty, but I'll throw in Joey Gallo, who finally had a good game for the Yankees on Thursday night, going up against Marco Gonzalez. Just doesn't seem like a good spot for Marco Gonzalez. I got to be honest with you. He pitches okay, I think, when he's in Seattle, but out on the East Coast against this powerful lineup, I don't love it. I don't love it for Gonzalez. So give me some Yankees bats if you can afford them. Fernando Reyes against Matt Manning, I think another strong option there. Haven't mentioned any Blue Jays. That's kind of on purpose. Eovaldi just does a pretty damn good job at especially home run suppression. So if you're going with the Blue Jays, I would go with the full stack, but probably a fade for me. Not that I'm going to likely play Eovaldi either. Randy Arozarena, he's been on fire recently after a slow start to the year. Hits lefties well. Again, I kind of like this matchup for Tampa Bay against John Means going into Baltimore, so don't sleep on them. Mitch Haniger against Peralta. Again, I like that a little bit. A few, I guess not cheaper guys. The Astros lefties against Bailey Ober, both Jordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker, who just they refused to raise his price for whatever reason. So, yeah, take advantage if you want to go to that. Kyle Tucker, an excellent play. Will Myers, Tommy Pham against Caleb Smith look good to me. Akil Baddoo should be leading off against Cal Quantrill. You can certainly go there. Tyler O'Neill, another guy who just stays really, really cheap, but gets Mike Minor. O'Neill, power, speed, even the batting average has been there. The power has kind of waned a little bit as the season has progressed, but I do think it will return at some point. He's, such a powerful hitter. Just hasn't been elevating the ball enough, but that can kind of come and go a little bit. So, yeah, don't sleep on Tyler O'Neill. His teammate, Dylan Carlson, also a pretty good play. And then I'm sure we'll get, as we always do on a big 14-game slate like we have on Friday, a huge number of cheaper options. Actually, you could stick with the Cardinals Harrison Bader, 2,600 is super cheap. There'll be a bunch of guys down there. We'll discuss all those guys on the show. And if you want to pay for pitching, usually there's plenty of cheap outfielders to go to. It's kind of hard to know from, early in the morning which ones are actually going to be in the lineup, but usually there's plenty to choose from. I'm guessing that will be the case again on Friday night. All right, that'll do it. Short and sweet here on Friday. We'll have everything you need over at Run Pure Sports throughout the day. Discord, core plays. I'm on the playbook tonight where I basically rank the players at every position after further research throughout the day. And hopefully you join us for the free show, the Up to Lock show. If you're a member, if you're not, and you want to join, RPS NFL 15% off for life, as long as you keep that membership going. So join us over at runpuresports.com. Join the movement and run Pure with us. Thanks for listening. As always, this podcast will return on Monday as we continue chugging along on the MLB season. Till then, I'm DraftCheat. We'll check you next time.